give the call to the Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And I too rise to speak on this MPI. And I do start by noting the fact that the opposition did get the date wrong when they did put this matter of public importance in. They did put the 9th of March 2023. But you know what? They may as well have put 1800 because that's where their views are when it comes to climate change. But you know what they'll probably say?
Leave quietly and if you are yelling on. Sorry, Minister, just be quiet. If you are going to yell as you leave, I will call you back. Thank you.
Thank you,
Minister.
Deputy Speaker. You know what they'll probably say? They'll probably say it was somebody else's fault, because they never take responsibility for anything at all, never anything at all. And I can't believe they actually come in here and lecture us after their decade of inaction, especially when it comes to energy policy and climate change, and their lack of responsibility. And it's the fact that due to their decade of inaction that we find ourselves that we're in the position we are in today. That's the reality of it, and Australians know it. You know, I thought maybe they would have, first of all, they might have got the date right when they put their MPI, but maybe they could have talked on the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report. Did you read that? I thought they might have come in here and wanted to discuss that. Now, it highlights the urgent need for ambitious climate action we are taking. They didn't bring that up, no. And the IPCC report highlighted the importance of getting on with the job of ambitious reforms in climate and energy, which we are doing. That's the reality. And, Deputy Speaker, the fact is we've taken action to take the sting out of power prices and invest in the cheapest form of energy, renewables. That's the fact. And, of course, as I've said, they failed to do that for the entire time that they're in government. But let's take a bit of time to look at the record of the Liberals and Nationals. It's quite a long track record when it comes to their inaction. Firstly, they voted against the $1.5 billion in direct bill relief to those Australians who need it the very most. They voted against price caps that are already having an impact on prices. And of course, as we know, the member for Hume hid the price rises before the election and then misled Australians about it. And we all remember the 22 energy policies. They just didn't land one. Not one. Every other week there seemed to be some other different plan. Never actually landed one. Always just bits and pieces here and there, but never any concrete action. And I think one of the worst things is that the former government absolutely refused to invest in the cheapest form of energy, renewables. And they left us with an energy grid built for the last century. And yet here they are, now opposing the safeguard mechanism. Their own policy, Deputy Speaker, their own policy. Businesses and industry want this. They need the certainty and they need stability. They should be listening to what the business community is saying with that. So we, everyone, all Australians, are now paying the price for their decade of neglect, delay and denial on energy policy. In fact, those opposite are frozen in time whilst the world warms around them. And I particularly want to note the inaction of the National Party. As I've said many times in this place, National Party choices hurt, and that can be seen across a whole range of policy areas. But their lack of action when it comes to climate change has been incredibly detrimental to those in regional and rural Australia. They consistently fail those within the country, and on this action, an issue that is so important to those in the country, time and time again they fail them, and even now they continue to fail them. And of course, for those, don't forget the Liberals and Nationals in New South Wales who sold off the poles and wires as well, which has added to the crisis too. So we've just seen across the board, at a federal level, at a state level, those Nationals have walked away from the people in rural and regional Australia. Now, Deputy Speaker, as I mentioned before, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report was released last night and confirms what we already know, that there is a rapidly closing window for transformative climate action both here and around the world. And we do know we have to see action, and we are acting in relation to that, because we see the increasing events, the devastating climate events that we've had in the recent years. And, Deputy Speaker, in communities like mine, which have suffered so much with the devastating floods we had just over a year ago, we are living the fact that there has been inaction on climate change by the previous government for over a decade. So many in our community are still suffering because of the impact of the floods. But now, after this decade of denial and delay, Australia has a government, a federal government that's committed to taking serious action on climate change. And I find it unbelievable, Deputy Speaker, that we even see today before the Parliament these reforms to the safeguard mechanism that those across won't support. This is the first opportunity in over a decade for action to bring down emissions from Australia's largest emitters. And the Parliament has a choice to seize this opportunity, to seize and take this opportunity, or to absolutely squander it. And of course, if passed, our safeguard reforms will come into effect in just over 100 days from now. And with only 82 months left before 2030, it's critical that we seize every possible day of the remaining time to drive down emissions. We have to be doing that. We, as I said, have had this decade of denial, and now we are a government that is acting. And we're very proud. We've legislated Australia's 43% emissions reduction target by 2030, along with net zero by 2050, supercharging a new offshore wind industry and delivering the $20 billion Rewiring the Nation investment to decarbonise our grid and take us to 82% renewables by 2030. And we're doing that because on this side of the House we understand how important the action is, and we understand and we are so committed to the investment in renewables as well. And we are delivering huge investments in renewable energy. And record investments as well are being put forward by the private sector as well because of our policies. And we're also working hard to deliver on the $400 million in community batteries, and this is in addition to the $176 million from ARENA for 8 large-scale batteries. And since we've come into power, large-scale wind and solar farm investment has grown significantly. And, Deputy Speaker, we have also seen a huge take-up in rooftop solar, with over 300,000 families investing in these systems in the second half of last year. And as I say, we are working hard. In the last 10 months, we have set Australia on a credible path to net zero because our national interest depends on it, absolutely, and importantly also our economy depends on it for the jobs and growth of the future. And it's also what our community voted for. I mean, one of the many reasons they voted the previous government out is because of their inaction on climate change, and we are absolutely delivering on our commitment to take action. And we are absolutely focused on transforming Australia's economy to a low-carbon economy, and it is the most important thing that we can do to support the ambitious international action that is necessary to contain that warming. Australians deserve protection from the impacts of climate change, and this is, as I say, an issue that I hear about every day in my community because we have lived the devastating effects of there not being action, and it does resonate through a community for a very long period of time. In fact, in my area, it will take years and years to recover from the devastating floods, and it is often hard to articulate how that impacts throughout the community. There are the obvious distressing examples of people losing their homes, their businesses, all their possessions. But when their communities are destroyed, there is just a huge impact upon them as individuals, and they are triggered so often by so many things, and it creates so much sustained trauma as well when these events hit. And yes, we can look at it in those pure bricks and mortar terms and financial terms, but the trauma throughout families and communities goes on for years and years, and that's why acting is so incredibly important. As I say, in areas like mine, I know many other areas of members here in the House have lived through that, and that's why action is so immensely important and why we as a government are acting. And as I say, Australians have voted to have action when it comes to climate change because we know how vitally important it is. And it was, without a doubt, one of those biggest issues at the election. Time and time again, people were so frustrated over so many years and so many different prime ministers under the previous government refusing to take action, just weasel words after weasel words and no set planning at all. And here we are now with business demanding certainty. They need to have that certainty in place, calling out to the Liberals and Nationals to provide that certainty to them, and they're still refusing to do it after all of these years. They still just keep digging in. As I said at the beginning, it may as well be in the 1800s the way these people think about things. They need to start listening to the community. They need to start talking to people. And again, particularly those members in the National Party should start talking to the people in regional and rural Australia. And what they will tell you clearly is that when they were in government, when Liberals and Nationals were in government, they failed. They failed the people of regional Australia when they didn't act. And here they are now, still refusing to act. Well, you should start listening to people. in the countries, in the cities everywhere who do want to have action on climate change, because the fact is we are focused on delivering that. We are doing that, and we are very proud to be delivering, finally, real action on climate change in this country.
Thank you.